What's up, Squares? Welcome to episode 3, Only Squares for the Squares. I'm Jabron Jones. I'm your host. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you feel some type of way about anything we said or want further discussion, go ahead and comment. If you want to see other people on this podcast, go ahead and comment below. That'd be great. We'll do our best to reach out to those folks. Today, I have one of my good friends, a great mentor of mine, a peer in some sorts, mentor in others, a real stand-up gentleman, a person that I have great admiration and respect for, Mr. Damien Jack. What's up with you, Dave?
What's good with you, fam? Always good to be with you, man.
Yes, sir. You know it. You know it. So I know some things, but honestly, for as long as we've known each other, I don't know everything about you. Right. I just know we have very similar mindsets and execution and the way we move about the world. So in order to get started, I wanted to know, like, when you were youngest, as young as you can remember, what did you want to be?
Man, that's crazy. I think it's changed. I think when I was young, it changed in a lot of ways. Like when I was young, still living in Harlem for a little while, I said I wanted to be a police officer. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to go into law enforcement. Then of course, like looking at some of the things that would take place in law enforcement. And I grew up at a time where they still had paddy wagons. So paddy wagons being on the block. Cars coming down the street and stuff like that. And so I think as I, started to get older, I was like, you know what, I actually want to live. So let me move forward, move to a different avenue. But I always knew that I was going to pursue, criminal justice. So, I ended up going to Shippensburg University in Pennsylvania. And I had, I looked at other, of course, other places, but, I'll say for myself, like not necessarily doing the research that I should have. Didn't realize that, with criminal justice, it kind of, puts you in a box. And that's because, with the degree, at least that time, there was really only like 3 things, that you can do. You was either going to go into probation, you was going to go into law enforcement, or you was going to go into corrections. So, I had my share of, walking into a correctional facility, and I knew right then, like, that was not going to be the life for me. So I was able to turn it and flip it. And how I did that, I think right before my last semester of school, I did a paid intern at a place called Vision Quest, which is up in South Mountain, Pennsylvania, right outside of Chambersburg. And so that's a facility for adjudicated youth. And so just working there and, looking at, some of the, things that kids go through as far as like being in the system, that's something that I wanted to do. So I was able to, take my degree and use that, as far as, working with the youth. So I pretty much done everything in the last 20 plus years. Like I've done community support, I've done intensive in-home, worked in day treatment, I worked in treatment facilities, and I did juvenile detention. And so now for the last 11 years, I've been working in behavioral hospital on our adolescent unit. So just making a degree work for me pretty much.
Well, you have to. I think people think it's like an easy ticket, and that's just not how the world works. But additionally, I'm looking at the similarities. So you're kind of like me in a sense where very early on, you kind of identified a field. And then you made sure, or you took steps to work within that field, even though the actual manifestation may not have been what you originally thought, right? You kind of like stayed on that path. And I think that's what leads to a sense of growing up when people, oh, he's a square, right? Like he just does this, right? He does things outside of the norm. Were you
Mhm.
always that aware of your end goal, or did you like kind of flow in and out of it?
It it kind of flowed it kind of flowed in and out. Um, I remember when I as soon as I graduated, I remember there was former former high school coach, football coach. Shout out to Mike Elby, and I remember he it was him, myself, and my dad. God rest his soul. We were on our way to Jersey for a college game, the Urban League Classic. And so my dad had tickets, so he and I, they had a bus to go up there for the game and stuff. And so I remember Coach Elby was, sitting like a couple rows behind, my dad, and I don't even remember how we got into the conversation, but um, I was telling him, it was my last semester. I was graduating that December. This was in 2001, and he said, as soon as he looked at me and said, as soon as you graduate, you got a job. So, I was
Hmm.
like, wow, okay. And so, him and his brothers, the family, they have a treatment program, alternative rehabilitations community. So that was the first job that I had coming out of college. And so when I got that job, at the same time that I got that job, um, I was actually picked to interview for an inspector general job in Harrisburg. So I was working with the county, and stuff. And so I remember, the pay was going to be decent and stuff like that. But by this time, I was kind of settled into the job that I already had, and I had kids that that I was working with and things like that, and they was getting used to me and stuff. And so I thought about it, and I ended up not taking the inspector general job. Matter of fact,
Oh,
I don't even think I went for the interview. And the reason being because working in the field that I worked in, and I've been working in for the last 20 years. The one thing that I know is that when it comes to children and adolescents, there's there's one main thing that you have to remember, like one main aspect, and that's consistency. You have a lot of our youth who don't have that consistency, and unfortunately, you'll get somebody who will come into their life, and just as fast they'll be gone, and it took you a while to build that relationship. It's just like building a building. You know what I'm saying? It's it takes a while to build it, but it takes seconds for it, for it to fall. And
for
so I
sure.
felt that, for me, I didn't, especially with the, one, particular relationship that I had, I didn't, I didn't want that I didn't want to destroy that just because, I could go over here and make more money. For me, all money ain't good money. So,
For sure.
I decided to, decide to stay with that. And I think in doing that, I just, you know, stuck with that path. So
So early you in Harlem versus what age did you move?
I moved when I was, I moved in '92. So um, I hadn't turned 13 yet. So I was 12 when I moved. We moved July of '92. So like right before my birthday is when I moved.
So that's like a not a it's never a good time, right? When you're young to move, right? But it's a good time in terms of like having those split experiences between two separate places.
Oh
How do
yeah,
you
man.
think that shaped you and like what are some of the things that you learned from each place?
Oh man, it was night and day. It was night and day. I'm not.
Nah.
Yeah, it was night and day. Like, so I'm not gonna be one of those ones who, and I'm not one of those ones who's gonna say, oh man, I had this type of upbringing and things like that. Harlem was Harlem. You know what I'm saying? When you grow up, you know what I'm saying, you don't know. really how things are till you get older, age wise and mentally, and be like, oh man. But I'm not gonna say that I'm saying that I had it rough, because I didn't. You know what I'm saying? I live, I'm 40th between 7th and Lenox. You know, I I had my good times, I had my bad times,
Yes, sir.
what I'm saying? I got, I got my first fight and got jumped, what I'm saying, in Harlem. I got, what I'm saying, a couple things stolen, but what I'm saying, I still remember, Harlem Week and, the block parties and things like that. So, you know, I mean, I loved Harlem for what it was. It was one of those things where, when my grandmother died, she passed in 1990, October of 1990, and so, my mom, she wanted to change.
Hmm.
She didn't necessarily want me to go to high school or anything, what I'm saying, like that, and even though I was going to, different places to see where I can, where I can go, but she wanted she wanted a different environment. So, we ended up moving to Harrisburg, or the Burg, as you and I call it. And it was night and day, man. New York is vast. I had more confidence before I moved. When I got there, I was going into the eighth grade. Like I said, I was 12 going on 13. And, when you at that time, what I'm saying, you don't have a clear definition of, what I'm saying, of who you are.
Nope.
And so, I'm moving at a time where, a lot of friendships are already formed, by this time. So,
Yeah.
for me, I'm still moving. The fashion was different. I still, I ain't gonna front. I still had the high top fade when I'm saying, I was still in the thing. I was still a thing when I was in, when I was in New York. What I'm saying, so, getting ridiculed off of that. So, you're able to, in New York, and you able to have your own style and not necessarily be ridiculed for it. I had my confidence then. Um, but when I moved, I definitely say my self-esteem was shot. What I'm saying? My self-esteem was shot. Um, it was a place in that, it has nothing to do. You can't blame it on, I don't blame it on the Berg. I had great times, and, what I'm saying, in the Berg as well. Um, but, I think, at the time that I was, growing up, there was a lot of, they paid attention to fashion. They paid so much attention. What I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whatever you wore on Monday, what I'm saying? Like, it better not, don't, you might not want to wear that again too soon. You know what I mean? Because,
Right. Right. Right.
you wear it again, be like, yo, didn't you just wear that? Like, what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like, they pay attention, so much attention. And so, um, yeah, I definitely going through some times where my self-esteem was really, really shot, and I didn't know at the time, like, how to navigate that. I mean, I did the best I could. I had my fun, I had my good times, I had, what I'm saying, I had my bad times, but, especially, of course, me being my size, wearing glasses, of course, what I'm saying, that's always a thing. Appearance is everything, right? So, it's kind of like those, what I'm saying, those three strikes against me. Here's this new person, the outcast, what I'm saying, he's big, glasses and this and that, and, what I'm saying, and then, of course, that was a time as well where, you know, um, you get looked down upon for, what I'm saying, for being intelligent, what I'm saying, being
Yes.
the nerd, as they call it. So yeah, so it was a lot. What I'm saying. I remember, my mom and I had this conversation, and she was like, well, why you didn't, tell me this stuff when you was going through. And I said, what could you have done? You know what I mean,
Right, right.
we made this, we made this move. Like I had to do my best to adjust. And so I think that's the biggest thing. And, that's one thing that I say now, not just as a child, but I think we as adults too. I always say that people don't, I used to say that people don't like change, but it's not really the change that people don't like. It's the adjustment. You know what I'm saying? People don't like to
Mm,
adjust because you have to adjust from what you used to do. If you're used to doing a certain thing and then you have to, find those new nuances, you know what I'm saying, to
hmm.
adjust to what is new. So it's not necessarily a change, it's the adjustment, to the change. Um and it took a while. I never really say that I adjusted the best way that I could. You know what I mean? I got
Of course.
through, got through eighth grade, you know what I'm saying, end up, went to the high, um, John Harris campus, loved my 4 years, you know what I'm saying, Cougar for life, so, it was fun, you know what I'm saying, but I would definitely say that, um, it took a very, very long time. And I mean like years, decades, I would say, to get my self-esteem back to,
Hmm.
where it used to be. I mean, even now I say I still struggle here and there.
Mm.
Um, but I'm definitely a lot more confident now than what I used to be. So I would say that, that was the biggest transition, the adjustment and self-esteem. So
There's so many similarities, not a one-to-one comparison, but knowing how the burg is, like neither one of my parents are from here. Right. So
mm,
it's kind of the same where it's like my parents didn't go to school with people from around here. And
right.
so it was, being raised a little different. And it's interesting that you say, coming from a place like Harlem to Harrisburg, right, which is much smaller, people don't realize like when you're isolated, you're isolated. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. They will automatically assume come from a place like Harlem, New York City, you will come here and be just as confident. But it's different when you feel like you're a one of one and you're surrounded by other than,
Hmm.
and then how, still maintaining who you are in that along those same lines, what kept you from going opposite? Often we hear, oh, I did this to fit in, I did that to fit in, right? Why didn't you dumb yourself down? Why didn't you use your size to your advantage? Why didn't you become a bully? Like, what were those guidelines that kept you from going astray in that manner?
Well, I'm not gonna get it twisted. I dumbed myself down some. Um, I did
Okay.
dumb myself down some, um, but not too much. Uh, just because my mom had the fear of God in me, so I needed to come home with what I'm saying, with certain grades. You know what I'm saying? So that right there, that was a no brainer. Like, what I'm saying, am I going to deal with getting picked on because I'm smart, or if, am I going to deal with getting my behind whipped when I get home?
Yes.
I'll deal with that over here. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, um, so yeah. But I mean, there were times where I know that I did dumb myself down some, um, but by the grace of God, when I did get to high school, I was put into the honors and the college prep classes. So, and in that, like, I had no choice. Like, it's either you gonna do this, or you know what I'm saying, or you not. And I looked at people who were in my classes, who had the intelligence and still maintain their cool at the same time. One of them, God rest his soul, was Avery Waddell. My classmate, graduated in '97 with me. Called him Smurf. You know what I'm saying? Those who, in the burg know who Smurf is. Smurf was highly intelligent. Um, he used to, you know what I'm saying, he used to spit on the mic. You know what I'm saying, very, very versatile, you know what I'm saying, but he also still had that level of cool with him. You know what I'm saying? And so, when you look at somebody, somebody like him, it's like, okay, so if he can do it, what I'm saying, I can't do it the way he does it, but what I'm saying, maybe I can do it my way. You know what I'm saying?
Uh,
So, I looked at somebody like that, and I just knew for me, I wasn't going to go down that down that road and have to deal with what I had to deal with at home. Like that, what I'm
right.
saying, that ain't gonna happen, because like you said, old school to the heart. So I had, a lot of my family, in Harrisburg as well. So, and that, they ain't gonna go against my mom. So it's like, where am I
Right.
going? Where am I going? You know what I mean? So I did, dumb myself down a little bit, but I still, you know, I still maintain what, what I'm saying, what I needed to. So, um, and like I said, you deal with those, you deal with those things, getting picked on, getting ridiculed. That's part of life, man. That's growing up.
It is.
Everybody dealt with that. So, I'm not going to be a victim when it comes to that. Everybody got that. You know what I'm saying? You dish it, and you know what I'm saying, and you take it. So you know what I'm saying. I took it, and you know what I'm saying. Every now and again, I was able to dish it as well. You know what I'm saying. I had to
Yeah.
hone in my skills a little bit on that. As far as my size, I mean, there was some people in the high who was bigger than me. You know what I mean? And at the same
Yeah.
time, I wasn't a confrontational type person. You know what I mean? Like, I really only like the story I told you where, what I'm saying, where I got jumped back in Harlem. And honestly, in my 44 years, that's the only fight that I ever got into. You know what I mean? So, I wasn't a confrontational type person. I fight when I need to, but my mom always instilled something. She always instilled something in me. She said that if you have to fight, it should only be two reasons that you ever get yourself into a fight: when you know you can win and when you're ready to die. And so, you know what I'm saying? So I never got into, no type of fights. And there was no need for me to, be a bully, because, there's always going to be somebody bigger than you. So, and
Always.
that wasn't my thing anyway. So,
Always. Yeah. It's good to hear that you have a part of the origin story of Only Squares was, listening to interviews, and they're like, everyone in my neighborhood did this. And I'm like, bruh, there's no neighborhood where everyone does the same thing. There's always a
nah,
nerd. There's always an athlete. There's always like someone living with their grandma, but their grandma got them in church 3, 4, 5 times a week. Like to put out
right,
into the world, that just because you come up in adjacent to poverty or in poverty, right?
right,
That you're forced into this criminality, and
right.
I
And
think.
see, I didn't live in, and I didn't live in those neighborhoods anyway. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, when we moved to the Berg in '92, like we stayed in the South. We stayed on Allison Street. So Allison Street, if you know where Allison Street is right off of 13th Street. So,
Yep.
it's about maybe like a 10-minute walk over to Hoover Homes, another, what I'm saying, another 5 minutes over in Hall Manor. But I didn't, what I'm saying, I wasn't there. I was on Allison Street. So anything that was going on over there was over there. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
there was
Right.
no need for me to, get in that. Like, if I, what I'm saying, if I played with there was really like on my block, there really, what I'm saying, there was two, there were two sisters, but what I'm saying, I wasn't necessarily rocking with them. And then there was one person who a couple people who I rocked with on 12th and 13th Street, one on 14th Street. So if I wasn't chilling over at their house, or if we wasn't around the corner at on 12th Street playing football in the street, what I'm saying, with my mans in them, I was in the crib. Like, I wasn't,
Yes,
what
sir.
I'm saying, yeah, I wasn't going over to Hoover the Homes or going over to Home Manor. Only time you ever check, what I'm saying, see me in Home Manor is when I'm over at 13th and Hanover catching the bus going over, what I'm saying, going to school,
Mhm.
what I'm saying, at middle school when it was still over at the bypass, or going over to, what
Yeah.
I'm saying, or catching to the high. So, And then in 95, um, we moved over to Adrian Street, you know what I'm saying, on the hill, which was about, you know what I'm saying, a good 15-minute walk to the high. We did that my sophomore year. Again, there was no kids on my block. You know what I'm saying? The closest, people I knew was like right down the hill, the Wingfields, you know what I mean? Shout out to the Wingfields, but it wasn't that type of environment. So I wasn't in the environment where, you know what I'm saying, all this, stuff was happening. Like we were surrounded by like older people and like, at the time that I moved on Adrian Street, my cousin and her husband, God rest his soul, they stayed right across the street. So, when I went home, it was like, what I'm saying, it ain't, you know what I'm saying, it ain't nothing. And then my dad at the time, God rest his soul, he was on disability. So he wasn't, what I'm saying, he wasn't, going nowhere. Like he was at the house most of the day unless, he was going around doing something for the family, you know what I'm saying, or getting my
Uh-huh.
mom and stuff like that. So like he ain't letting me out my sight, you know what I'm saying, out his sight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I mean, I wasn't in that environment where I was doing, where I'll be caught up in any type of stuff like, you know what I'm saying, you weren't gonna catch me on Duck Down Ave or nothing like that. Like it just wasn't gonna happen.
That's like the old heads always say, right? Staying out the way. Like
Absolutely.
I know my lane. I'm comfortable in this lane. I'm not trying to, invite any excitement, aka
Yeah.
danger, to my life. Like I
Yeah.
got my things that I do and the things that I don't do.
Yeah. And I mean, it was the same way. It was the same way when I was in Harlem. I mean, Harlem was different just because yeah, it was right there. But at the same time, like, people knew my mom, they knew my dad, they knew my grandma, God rest, you know what I'm saying, God rest her soul. So, you know what I mean? If, and we knew, you know what I'm saying, we knew the dealers. So, you know what I'm saying, like whenever my grandmother came out, you know what I'm saying, if they was in the middle of the deal, they cut all that out. You know what I'm saying? Because, you
Huh.
know what I'm saying, because she was coming out, you know what I'm saying? They would wait, hey, Miss Woods, how you doing? And like, my grandmother wasn't no fool, you know what I'm saying? She speaks to them, you know what I'm saying? They respect them like that. You know what I'm saying? Because they had respect for my moms like that. They, you know what I'm saying? They weren't funny, you know what I'm saying? Funny story. I don't remember, well, I ain't gonna say no names anyway, but there was this one, I was coming downstairs, I lived in an apartment. So this was a, seven-story building that I lived in, building 133. So I remember I'm coming downstairs, you know what I'm saying? I'm in the lobby. I'm getting ready to go outside. I don't even remember what, you know what I'm saying, I was getting ready to do. And, there was a sale getting ready, you know what I'm saying, getting ready to happen. And so, the one who was doing it, she was like, yo, you know what I'm saying, get out of here, you know what I'm saying? And so me being young, I kind of, I got upset a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And, I mean, I told my mom what happened. And so she came downstairs and confronted the person and, and they told my mom, like, look, I was in the middle of doing something and I didn't want him to see that, so that's
Uh,
why I said what I said. And so she understood and she explained to me. So I knew, you know what I'm saying, like, with it being right there, I knew, but the people, you know what I'm saying, who's on the block, they was gonna make sure like, nah, you know what I'm saying, we ain't, you ain't, first of all, you're not doing that. Second of all, we ain't trying to deal with your moms. You need to, you know what I'm saying, you need to go ahead and, go somewhere. So even in the midst of that, you had those, the strong foundation that was like, nah, you ain't, what I'm saying,
right.
this ain't you. You know what I'm saying, you go ahead and you know what I'm saying, do what you're doing. So
It wasn't promoted like, hey, you should do this. It was like,
right,
nah, I don't even want you
right.
seeing it.
Right. And
Yeah. I
even seeing it, like I said, I was there during the times when they still had the paddy wagons and stuff, you know what I'm saying? I remember the paddy wagons being on the block and, you know what I'm saying, them coming, you know what I'm saying, and arresting people. And then next thing you know, it's on, it's on ABC. We call it Eyewitness News. You know what I'm saying? It's on there like, damn, my block is on there. That ain't the greatest, but again, I'm not going to sit there and say that everything has its good and has its bad. So I'm not ever going to say like, yo, everything in Harlem was bad, because it wasn't. I remember
right.
when Jesse Jackson was running for president and he shot a commercial on my block. You know what I mean? I remember when before I moved for our move from Harlem when Spike Lee was filming Malcolm X on 125th Street. I remember when New Jack City came out, and I see Esplanade Gardens, which is on 147th and Lenox. If you ever next time when you watch New Jack City, and you see right after G Money makes the in the very beginning, right after he makes the basketball shot, and they in the Jeep, and they riding down, they riding down the street, and he started talking about the females, and
Yeah.
he stand up and he going like this in the back. When it cuts to him and he's standing in the back like that, he's on Lenox Avenue. And then and the buildings in the back is Esplanade Gardens. That's on 147th Street. So he's driving past my block going down Lenox Avenue. So some of them things, and then the craziest part was right after I moved out of Harlem, I think a year or two later, they shot Above the Rim. So if you remember the scene where Pop pulls the blade out of his mouth,
Yep.
that was on my block.
That's
So I'm like,
crazy. That
so I'm like,
what,
I
what, what,
moved. I moved right after Pop came. Right, I moved before I was mad. Boy.
for the size that the city is and that Harlem is, like, what makes everyone film there?
It's the
Then, at least.
I mean, even now, I mean, it's the history, it's the culture behind it. You know, when you think about the Harlem Renaissance, when you think about what Harlem, represents. You have so many people who moved up to Harlem, especially during the Renaissance, the Langston Hughes and the people of that nature. You had the Arthur Schoenbergs and things of that nature. Man, Harlem was a melting pot. I mean, and it's still a melting pot. Even when I moved to Harrisburg and I see some of the movies or videos that are shot in Harlem. There was a favorite place of mine that was on 135th and Lenox Avenue. It was a restaurant called Pan Pan. Man, best pancakes ever. If you ever watched the video from Alicia Keys, You Don't Know My Name, that was shot in Pan Pan.
That's
And
crazy.
what's crazy is, like, not too long after that video shot, the building was burned down. So and they never built it back up. Or even if you watch Shaft, Samuel Jackson's version of Shaft, the first one of the scenes is shot in the Lenox Lounge, place called the Lenox Lounge, which is off of I think 124, between 124 and 126. And that place is closed down. So I mean, there's a lot of just a lot of culture that comes out of Harlem. So just for me, I'm proud to say that that I'm a part of a product of it. And I'm also proud to say that I'm a product of of Harrisburg too. Harrisburg shaped me in a lot of ways as well. Taught me a lot of lessons. So I'm proud to say that I'm from both and I represent both. So
We talk about this transition, maintaining identity, finding identity, right? As being a big, intelligent black man, right? You graduate high school. Talk to me about college. Talk to me about Alpha. How these things come about.
at first I wanted to go to Howard. I told my mom I'm gonna go, I'm going to Howard. This is where I want to go. And so I forget what year was that. I think it was 90. Was it 96? It was either 95. Yeah, I think it was no. I think it was 90. I think it was 95. We take a trip to DC, and so we stay in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we would take the city bus into DC. So one day we taking the bus, we in DC, and I got my headphones on, and I'm listening to music, and my mom taps me on the shoulder, and she was like, "Hey, there go Howard." And I looked,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, so I look over this way, and I look this way, I look this way. Like, wait a minute. All right, uh, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. You know, um, and I didn't get to like see the campus until '96 when I went on the Black College tour. But I think it just wasn't
Mhm.
it wasn't where wasn't where I expected to be. Again, beautiful, you know what I'm saying, beautiful campus, you know what I'm saying, when I went there, a couple of times that I've been there. But I ended up not going to Howard because they didn't have my major. Um,
Oh, okay.
they didn't have my major. I don't necessarily know if they have criminal justice at this, you know what I'm saying, at this time. Some places didn't have criminal justice, some had criminology, which is, was the difference, but Howard didn't have my major, so I ended up not applying. So I ended up applying to four schools. I applied to SHIP, I applied to IUP, I applied to Lincoln, and I applied to Temple. I got
Okay.
accepted. I got accepted by like three out of four, and then I ended up doing a tour of SHIP, and that's where I ended up. The ironic part about it was the keynote speaker of my graduation. She ended up being my second mother, not realizing that she was the head of multicultural student affairs at SHIP, and I didn't realize that till I got down there. So
Oh,
big shout out to my second mother, Miss Diane Jefferson. Love her forever. She is, and I always say it. She is definitely one of the reasons why I graduated from SHIP. Um, SHIP was definitely another transition. Um, wasn't necessarily as bad, only because when I was in the eighth grade, there was this summer program at Bucknell University that I got chosen for. It was crazy how I got chosen for it, but I got chosen. And so in 90, 93, 94, 95, during the summer, like for 4 weeks, you would actually go up, to the school and you would stay at the school. So Sunday through Friday, you'd be at the school doing like different projects and stuff like that. They bring you home Friday, you spend the weekend at home. Sunday they come pick you up, take you back, and they actually pay you for going. So, so I already at a young age already had that college experience. So it wasn't,
yeah.
when I got the SHIP, I wasn't those ones where, hey, I'm going buck wild. I got all this freedom and stuff like that. Like, what I'm saying? I already had it, what I'm saying? So, where everybody is sitting there, I never forget this, this one dude on a Monday. I never forget it. It was a Monday. This dude is like, hey man, I'm bored, man. Ain't no parties going on. How come ain't no parties going on? Cause I'm like, cause you're supposed to be doing schoolwork right now, man. Like, you know, he was like, well, man, I'm bored. What, I don't understand. What am I going to do? I said, how about you study? How about that? He was like, I'm going to go find a party. I was like, all right, good luck with that on a Monday. All right, good luck with that. So, um, the college, the freedom experience I already had.
Mhm.
But, again, um, dealing with still dealing with the self-esteem. And also, I always take this with me, and I forget which special it was on, but uh, good brother, God rest his soul, Richard Pryor, he he once said in his one of his specials, he said, "You never graduate into manhood until you had your heart broken." So
Yeah.
and so I remember, my freshman year of college, I got my heart broken. And so that was and so, SHIP wasn't necessarily a big campus. I'll say it's like like the size of Harrisburg, you know what I'm saying, small, so you can't help but to run into people.
Right,
So,
right.
know, dealing with that for, for 4.5 years, that was, you know, I grew up there. You know what I'm saying? I still say, again, it wasn't until, later that I'll say that, my self-esteem got a lot better. But, sometimes when I go back to the school, like I look around and it's surreal. It's like, wow, like I really made it through,
Hmm.
um, I had my, I definitely had my tough times. Um, when it came to Alpha, I always say this, and people used to actually laugh um, when I say this. I remember I said this one time, and there was a couple of young ladies in another organization who was like, "Well, that doesn't make sense to me," and I'm like, and so I didn't say it for a while, but now I say it with confidence because that's just what it is. It's not for you to understand. But
Hmm.
when anybody asks me why did I choose Alpha, I tell them I didn't choose Alpha. God chose it for me, and
Hmm.
and I say that because I did have my interests in other organizations. I did pursue other organizations. Um, but because of certain things that I won't mention on here, but I pretty much I was rejected. I'll say that, and there was one where I was when I was rejected, and I was really um, I was really hurt because of the work that I put in just to
Hmm.
be eligible to say, okay, can I knock on the door? And I was rejected. So, you know, um, at the time, uh, the person who would become my dean, Jeremy Thomas, like he knew my journey, and so he asked, well, how are things going? And I told him, and he said, man, anybody would be, would be lucky to, what I'm saying, to have you in their organization. And so he told, the person who would end up being my LB, he was like, listen, when you're done, go get them. And
Yeah.
that, at that time made me feel good because, here I am, pursuing and someone is pursuing me.
Right.
Someone saw something in me, that, I didn't yet see for myself. And so,
Hmm.
you know, I'll never forget it was a Friday. It was a Friday morning, January 29th. I get a phone call, from my dean. He's like, I heard you want to talk to me. I said, well, yeah, I wanted to know, what your organization has to offer, And actually before that, I called my friend, I told him, I said, I didn't even make nothing long and drawn out. I just told him, I said, hey, the answer is yes. And so,
Huh.
he's excited, what I'm saying? He was like, hey, you want me to tell you something? I was like, nah, I'm already, I've already looked some stuff up and everything. And so, I get that phone call, I go to meet, I go to meet with him. We're sitting there talking and, and he said, well, man, I just want to make sure that you're really serious as far as what, that you really want to do this and things like that. And so, right there, I spit the motto, I spit the founders and, what I'm saying, things like that. And so, he sat there for like a minute and a half and was like, you know what? I think we can put you on right now. So next thing you know, like my heart, it comes out my chest. He was like, oh, wait a minute. I thought we was talking about next year, dog. I didn't think we was talking about like the next. I didn't think we was talking about the next 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like for real? Like you
Love it.
serious?
Love
Like
it.
you know what I'm saying?
Love it.
But
Yep.
but yeah, that afternoon and the rest is history. So um, I think I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. Four is a lot of relationships.
Hmm.
A lot of networking and I'm, you know, glad that God put me, on this path. Like I said, whenever anybody asks, why'd I choose it, I tell them I didn't choose it. God chose it for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's dope. That's dope. I mean, you're my standard for what Alpha Man is. So, that's what's up. If I see someone with your
Appreciate you.
colors on, with your letters on, like it's always like, okay, how does he compare to Dame? Like
I
not
appreciate
because
that,
you're the
man.
only Alpha I know, right? But it's like that you solid, right? Like this is who we are. We're like in the ways where you want to represent the best way possible, at all times.
Absolutely.
We're not using it as a bully pulpit or to be over somebody. It's like, there's certain principles I believe in, and that's what we're gonna rock with. So yeah, man, that's just
Absolutely.
how it is too. That's just how it is. I think it's dope that you did the research prior to, you were pursuing prior to, you were open to being agile, with your choices. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there that everyone that does it, everyone generally speaking, they're doing it to make friends or they're doing it to be popular. Like they don't know about those who do research, and really have well thought out decisions regarding if they're going to join an organization at all, or
Hmm.
which organization they're going to join. Like it's a real process, for more than what's promoted, as
Right.
far as the membership goes.
Right. And I think if I would say anything, and I'm not sure if this mindset is done today or not, but I knew it was done back in the day for me. One of the things that I think I felt needed to change, especially because of my experience, was that just because you show interest in one doesn't mean that it has to be that one.
Right,
Because it might not be that one. You know what I mean?
right,
Like you might see something and yeah, it looks good and something like that, but then something else may catch that interest. You know what I'm saying? But it was always a thing where, what I'm saying, if you went to an interest meeting, oh, that's what you want to be, and there's nothing else. So now if you go
yeah,
to another interest meeting already, what I'm saying, you blackballed because it's like, well, I thought you wanted to be over here. Well, it's called interest, right? Like,
right, right,
I
right,
mean, I can't show interest. Like I haven't
right,
made a
right.
decision. I'm saying I'm interested. Like it. So that was always a thing that I felt that needed to change, because what a lot of people don't understand, especially when you 18, 19, 20 years old, for a lot of people, this is the first lifetime commitment that you are making.
That's a fact.
And so you have to be sure that this is what you want, and you can't go back from that. Like once you make that decision, that's it.
Right,
You can't go
right,
back and say like, oh nah, I don't want to be this. I'm gonna try to be this. Nah, nah,
right,
nah, dawg. That's not how it works.
right,
So,
right.
like you have to be sure. So why not? Like, so I would always tell people like, when, they would come and say, hey, I'm interested in this. I'm like, cool. I'm glad you're interested. But this is what I need you to do. I need you to go and look up all of them. Look up
Yup,
all of them. See
absolutely.
what, what I'm saying? See what they're about. Then once you go see what they're about, then you look at those who are on campus. Do they represent what I'm saying, what you looked up? You know, but it wasn't until the funny thing about it, it wasn't until um my wife crossed, she crossed Zeta in spring 18, and she says something that I'm sitting here like, wow, like I've been in this, what I'm saying, over 20 years, and it didn't hit me that way until you said it. And so she said somebody had told her like, you're not pleasant, or you're not pleasant the chapter, you're pleasant the organization.
Yep,
And I was like, wow,
yep,
okay, I get it. I
yeah.
get,
It's hard to see that on the
um,
yard though.
it's very hard to say that on yard because it's like you see what you see. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So
Right.
it's like the organization itself, the principles, the lessons, everything is great. But then when you see people who you know what I'm saying who got it on, is like, hmm?
Yeah, like yeah, I totally
Yeah,
agree. I think that's a mindset, and that's why I like, earlier on, like, appreciate your mentorship because it was never, oh, this is that and this is better than that, and through that mentorship, I would say that that's how we impacted our yard. It's like we never push beef, we never push differences. We had people that wanted to be members of other organizations, like, yo, we can call them for you. Like if that's what you want to do, we can call them for you. I think that lack of confidence, though, is what says, oh, you're interested for this where you can't look at anything else, right? Because it's a lack of, it shows you don't want to compete, And I'm
mm-hmm.
more along the lines of you. Look at all of them. Like, just because you see us, this may not be what you want to do. Look at all of them, like, because I'm really more than sure we can compete, in whatever standards anyone wants to compete in. And when you lack that confidence, that's when you get into that mindset of, oh, you were interested in this, you can't be that.
Right, right. You know what's funny, and I've never told you this. Um, Bam knows this. Um, shout out to Jeff, man.
Yeah,
Um,
man. Always.
but I never told you I got ridiculed for mentoring y'all.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I got ridiculed for mentoring y'all, and 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 I'm not gonna say nah. When I came up to Bloom for y'all probate, I remember one of the older brothers came up, one of the older nukes came up to him and was like, yo, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate, what you did. Like we heard a lot about you, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? You mentoring, like, I appreciate that. Like we don't see that, a lot, you know what I mean? But yeah, I got ridiculed for that. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
crazy.
I got talked about for that. Like, it's like, why would you, you know what I'm saying? Why would you do that? Like, why, what would you, you know what I'm saying? What would you do that for? You know what I'm saying? It was like, and it taught me something. It was a combination of that. And when I was on the yard, um, my Sands, he was celebrating, celebrating his, his year anniversary. And it was put on my spirit to do something for him. And so, you know what I'm saying? So I made a gift. I made a gift for him. And so, you know, I went, you know what I'm saying? I gave it to him, and he was so appreciative that like all day, like he was walking around the yard with it all, you know what I'm saying, all day. You know what I mean?
That's what's up.
And I was blessed to, you know what I'm saying, to I've given it to him. It was, it was something on my heart to do. And then I remember at the same time I got criticized for that too, and even people who I say were close to me, you know what I'm saying, like questioning, like, why would you do that? And so I realized that, a couple things just from that, um, first and foremost, there's a saying that's like, um, when God calls you to do something that's not going to be understood by everyone because it wasn't a conference call. And you know what I'm saying? And I get that,
Yeah.
people are not gonna understand, what you have been called to do or what's been put on your spirit to do or what's been put on your heart to do. It's not for everyone. And I remember sharing my excitement and my joy just to see y'all, just to see y'all cross. And I remember sharing it, you know what I'm saying, with a couple people, and they didn't share in the same excitement. You know what I'm saying? They didn't understand
Yeah.
it. It wasn't almost, it was a downer experience. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
killed my mood, it killed my spirit because, and I understood like, okay, they didn't understand it, because
Yeah.
again, you don't know this, but when y'all came to the house, when y'all came to the house that next day, and y'all left, man, I was in tears, man. Like I was so happy for y'all, man. I was like,
Ah,
I was in tears, man. And, you know, I learned that your, your joy, your excitement, your, your calling, your heart, your spirit is not for everybody. And
yeah,
not everybody's gonna understand. And it's not meant for them to. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's for you. Like, you know why you did it, and those who know. You know what I mean? So
I tell the young boys now, like, man, listen, this is not gangbanging. Like you were the first, when we were going to put Cap on our campus, you're the first Greek that Bam had to speak to outside of him. Right. So it's
yeah,
like, okay, we're trying to bring a chapter Cap Alpha Psi, and the first person he has to talk to is an alpha. Right. So, like, to me, that just puts you in a high regard, but it also shows like how relationships really work, right? And then I remember the one guy in our interest group who felt the need to tell you what he wasn't going to do. He was out of
right,
the interest group the next day. Like, you
right,
out of here, buddy. Like, we're not doing that to anybody. So it really set a precedent that's still like alive today at Penn State Harrisburg. And like you're a part of that. And it's crazy that, you know, just think how much can get done if that mindset was alleviated. And that's kind of like, but that's that thing we talked about earlier, right? We're growing up in certain areas, certain situations. You don't bring a gang mentality to a fraternity or sorority. That's not what they are.
right,
They're just different flavors.
right. And I forever, man, I forever appreciate Bam for that, man. I mean, you know, because that's something that he didn't have to do, at all. And Bam knows a part of my journey too. You know, he knows a certain portion of my journey too. And so, for him to trust me enough and have the confidence in me enough
Hmm.
to, to talk to y'all and to mentor y'all, man, especially during that time, man, that meant the world. That meant, what I'm saying, and it still, and it still does. And I think that's why Bam gets the, you know, Bam is an icon in Cap Alpha Psi. I don't care what,
That's a
what I'm
fact.
saying. I don't care what nobody says. Like I remember a couple years ago, I went with the wife. I was up in Philly for Zeta Boule, and so um, I was just there for moral support, by the way. Anyway, so 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 I went to the opening. I went to the opening because I knew my general president was going to be there, and so um, we was at the opening. We was I was chilling out in the hall. The missus was doing her thing, and I was chilling, with a couple of frat. And um, I remember, the Noops got together and they took a picture. Nice, what I'm saying, nice picture. And so a couple of them were on the side. They were talking. And I'm not sure, what I'm saying, that, not sure what they were talking about. It, doesn't matter. They was talking, what I'm saying, they was talking capital business. But then
Mhm.
I heard one of them say, well, you know what? If we ain't got it, I know Bam could tell us what it is. And I'm sitting here with a smile on my face because I'm like, y'all don't even know that I know Bam. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
just that, just that presence, and that leadership and that mentorship that he has. You know what I'm saying? I think, in my opinion, especially in the, what I'm saying, in the Northeast provinces, is second to none. You know what I'm saying? Like, much respect to him always.
Yeah, bridging those gaps, creating those communities, and getting people to talk to one another. Getting rid of the toxicity, within the Divine Nine organizations as it is. Like, I could clap for other people, I'm happy for other people.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
it doesn't take anything away from me. And if they win it 1,000 years in a row, that's my fault for not doing better. Whatever they're competing in. Like
Absolutely.
it's just a different mindset. I don't have to diminish you. For me to shine.
Absolutely.
So
And I'll
yeah,
tell anybody, I'll tell anybody, yes, you know, yes, I did have interest in others. Yes, I did, pursue others. But I dare you to question my love for the black and gold. Question it if you want to.
right, right,
You might not
right,
want that. You ain't gonna want that.
right, right,
It's not,
right, right.
you know.
Well, you putting in the work. I mean, we all have our, share of t-shirt wearers, like
Absolutely.
we all have our share. I don't know what the sororities do, bro. They be killing it. I don't know what they do that's different, but they kill it in terms of like attendance and showing up for each other. But they don't share that with us. So I don't know how we're going to I don't know how we're going to get there. So, all right. So, yeah, ship. The juggernaut has been formed, right? All right.
Yeah.
So then you graduate, you enter your professional career. What does this path look like to becoming an author? Like, because you talked about like self confidence a few times now, right? But you got to be pretty confident to put pen to pad and put it out to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so talk to me about that path.
Um. So in 2008, well, I moved down here to Charlotte in 2006. I was married at the time. I was in my first marriage when I moved down here, and one of the things that I had wanted to do long before Alpha, long before any Greek organization was to become a Mason. And that was since I was 18 years old. Um,
Hmm.
I watched the movie Rosewood,
Mm-hmm.
and then ever since then, it just kept popping up, popping up, popping up. When I went to ship, my mentor was a Mason. I found out my barber when I was in Harrisburg. My barber, was a Mason. So it just kept, when I crossed Alpha, one of the founders is a Mason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the first initiations was in a Masonic hall. So you know what I mean. So I mean, it was just everywhere. So I almost had a chance to do it when when I was back, when I was back in Harrisburg. Shout out to Michael Cooley, past master Michael Cooley,
Mm-hmm.
Paxton Lodge number 16. Your lodge, as a matter of fact, past master.
Ooh,
Um, so and the reason why I didn't do it is because I was getting ready to get married at the time, and we was going to be moving. So um,
yeah.
when I got down here, uh, of course, really not knowing anybody, and then
Mm-hmm.
being in like I said, I was in my first marriage, and so her daughter was going to middle school, and I'll never forget there was a lodge that was building. They had a nice lodge that was on like the same street but further up the road, and they sold it for a good amount of money, and so they was building a new lodge from the ground up, which just happened to be right across the street from the school. So here I am every day getting teased,
Uh-huh.
dropping her off, picking her up, seeing the square and compass like every time, like it's killing me. So, I finally got the, green light 2008. I became a member of Paul Drayton Lodge number 7. Um, but I did not get the confidence to start writing until 2011. I know 2013.
Okay.
2013 is when I was elevated to the 33rd degree, and one of the things that was ingrained in us, when obtaining that degree was, it was our duty to teach, and
Okay.
so at the time, I think that built my confidence up to like actually start writing lectures, and so I started, just started writing a little bit, do something, here and there. And in 2015, I was, given the honor of being a grand lecturer for our Royal Arch, the jurisdiction for the Royal Arch here in North Carolina. And so I was given a task by the Grand High Priest at the time, um, to come up with a lecture every month and distribute it to the jurisdiction. So so I remember writing one, and I sent it to a person and asked them what they thought. And they said, this is good. What you should do is you should get a collection of them and put them in the book. Now, this was in
Okay.
February. This was in February of 2015. So he planted that seed. So anybody who's watching this, when you plant that seed, hopefully or prayerfully, you'll be able to, see it grow. Later on in that year, I remember I had a flash drive. The old one is gone, but I had, just, one of these flash drives, and I would be at work, have a conversation like me and you doing right now, and an idea pops up. So I, write something, write a lecture, and what I'm saying, and it's in the flash drive. And I realized, like, I got all these lectures in the flash drive and it's not going nowhere. So what I did was I went and
Okay.
I bought a 3-ring binder, and I printed out all my lectures, and then I just divided them, by the different bodies, whether, York Rite, Scottish Rite, because by that time I'm in all the bodies. So, I'm writing, just for different ones. And so I put it in the book, and then I put it in this binder, and then I look at the binder, and I remember what he said back in February. And so I called him up and I said, do you really think I can do this, this author thing? And he was like, yeah, I'll show you, how to do it. I'll edit it, you know, take you, show you this website, how to do it, so on and so forth. So that morning I get off work, I go home, and I go to the missus and I say, I think I want to, write a book. And she looks and she says, hmm, Damien Jack, the author, has a nice ring to it. And that just, like when it came out of her mouth, that was just, for me, that was just like affirmation, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And um, so my first book, was published in December of 2015. And, I stepped out on faith, and, 12 books later,
Yeah.
just still doing it, so, yeah, it's been a blessing. It's really been a blessing, to do that. So, uh, definitely a confidence builder, because I tell anybody, whenever you put yourself out there, it doesn't matter how you do it. Even in me doing this, and what I'm saying, you doing your podcast, um, you you have to be you have to understand the vulnerability that comes with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you have to be vulnerable, because there are going to be some critiques and criticisms and things like that. And you have to be ready. Because you're putting yourself out there. So, you know, the opinions, everything that's going to come is going to come. So, there's a level of vulnerability that comes with it. And so if that's not something you can handle, I would strongly advise you not to take that realm. Whatever realm it is where you have to, put yourself out there, because, it's something, because you're leaving yourself open, to
Yeah.
everything. And if you're not strong enough to handle that, don't do it. So,
What are some of the more unexpected criticisms that you received early on? Like, were any that surprised you, or you were like, I figured this would happen?
man, I was surprised by it. I was surprised by it all. Like, I was surprised that, when when I published it and I got the first copy and I, took a picture of it and I said, this is my first, my first book. And I sold like 40 copies in the first 24 hours. I'm like, wow, like,
Mm-hmm.
like for real, like this, this is really happening. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And in less than a month, I'm like 100 copies. And, next thing I got people in, brothers in, Kuwait and Japan, Australia, like, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Like I'm like overseas, like wow, like this is, you know what I'm saying? This is, I had a good brother and friend, God rest his soul, his name was Chad Cornett. He sold a lot of Masonic regalia. He had a regalia business, and it's still going to his day. His widow is still running the business to this day. So shout out to 1775 Inc. So he approached me and said, "Listen, this is what I want to do. I want to use your book as a part of a package." And so the package is going to be you get an apron, you get a pair of gloves, and you get your book. I
Mm-hmm.
want to use this, you know what I'm saying? So, you sell to me wholesale, and so I said, okay. And next thing you know, he hits me up and he tells me that there was a lodge in the Bahamas that bought 17 of this package. They was, you know what I'm saying, they were raising some brothers and they ordered, 17 of them. So I'm like, wow, like, are you
Yeah.
serious? Like, in the Bahamas? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
yo, you gotta tell me who this is. Like, who, you know what I'm saying, who did it? So, he gave me the name. I hit the brother up, brother Aaron Sargent, past master Aaron Sargent, Columbus 16, jurisdiction of Bahamas. And so I hit him up and we had been talking, and so in 2016, me and the missus, we had took our kids on a cruise as a gift for graduating, and
Okay.
so we one of the stops was in Nassau, Bahamas, which is where they was at. So I called one brother. I said, "Hey, we're going to be coming on this day. Is there any way you can just like show us around?" So we get off the boat. The brother picks us up, and you know how when you go on a cruise, and you get off in the port, like everybody wants to get your attention, right? And you
Yes.
could tell, how they treat everybody, right? So I had a Masonic shirt on. As a matter of fact, it was a 33rd shirt. Never forget, I had a 33rd shirt on, and you could tell how what I'm saying, how they aggressive with everybody else. Then they saw me, and they came over. My brother, how you doing this morning? Need anything? Can we take you anywhere? You be all right? I said, nah, brother, I'm good. I got somebody, picking us up. What I'm saying, we good. My brother, if you need anything while you're here, let me know. We'll, take care. I was like, all right, cool. So brother picks me up. We go around, takes a, he shows us around the island and everything like that. We had a good time, meet a whole bunch of people, meet the brother who bought the packages. And he was like, look, we want to actually get you down here, like, down here to come and, talk, like, lecture and stuff like that. So he was a junior warden at the time, ends up going in as worshipful master. So This was in when I did the cruise. This was September of 16. March of 17. Me and the missus, we fly into Nassau. So they was like, all you have to do is fly in, and we'll take care of everything else. So I was like, okay.
Ah,
So we flew in, and we were there for about 6 days, almost a week, and they took care of everything.
oh, that's awesome.
I mean,
That's
when I
awesome.
say everything, I mean like pulling out money was an insult. You know what I'm saying? Insult to them. Like, you know what I'm saying?
What are you
I
doing?
mean, and so, um, that right there was like the, biggest thing, you know what I'm saying? Picking us up at the airport, the biggest thing for me though was when I got there and I went, you know what I'm saying? And I went to the lodge and, you know what I'm saying? I'm a bunch of nerds, and the Grandmaster is there, you know, and the Grandmaster is more excited to see me and I'm excited to see him. Like, and I'm like, how is this even possible? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I mean, just the love that we got from down there, and um, for my wife to see it, you know what I mean? Like, this is the fruit of, what I'm saying, the fruit of my, labor, and so just to get those reactions, and um, where I am now, it's been a beautiful journey. It really has.
Like, oh yeah, a lot of decision making on your part, good decision making, a lot of patience and perseverance. So I often say that the hardest thing you could do is the right thing, right? Doing the wrong thing, we know what comes of that. So it's kind of like guaranteed outcomes. You could get good grades, go to college, and not get a job, right? Like
Right.
there's no guarantees with doing the right thing. If you were to sum up everything and just give a piece of advice to those who, are looking for it and are open to hearing it, like what would you leave them with?
There are going to be things that you're going to go through that you're not going to understand when you're going through them. One thing that I learned being in, especially masonry, we say, um, time, patience, and perseverance will accomplish all things.
Hmm.
And you're not going to understand some things when you're in the midst of it. But man, when I tell you, when you come out on the other side and you realize it was a blessing in disguise. Um, and I won't even say in disguise, like it was a blessing. Like, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Sometimes we're afraid to move because, as the saying goes, the anticipation of a thing is worse than the thing itself. And because we're afraid of the unknown, we want to stick with what's comfortable. And in order for you to grow, in order for you to change, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so I would tell anybody, whatever it is that you're going through, um, as you're going through this journey. Like right now, I'm teaching a class, a Masonic class, and I'm telling them appreciate the journey. The journey is what's going to make the destination so much sweeter.
Hmm.
When you look back and you think about where it is you came from and where you are now, you show that gratitude because of that journey. You know, um, you look at Dawn Staley when she won the championship and how she broke down. Think about that journey that she went through. You know what I'm saying? From losing to Iowa to, having a whole new team and then end up going 38-0. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
that journey is what makes the destination that much sweeter, and you appreciate it that much more. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so appreciate the journey, appreciate it, and embrace it. You know, please embrace it. Um, because whatever goal that you're going to, whatever goal that you're trying to achieve, it's not going to be a straight shot. Um, it's not going to happen overnight. Um, and when you see somebody who um takes something, so when they take it seriously or when they take it to heart, um, it's because of what they had to go through to get it. You know, um, just like the saying goes, like you see my glory, but you don't know my story. So
Yeah.
appreciate the journey. And when you reach your destination, take the time to take a step back and reflect on what you had to go through to get it. And once you do that, it'll it'll make it that much more meaningful to you. You know, that would be my biggest advice to anybody.
Yes, sir. 100%. Only squares for the squares. Episode 003. Like, comment, subscribe. My good friend, mentor, peer, man of Alpha Alpha, husband, Mason, Mr. Damien Jack. I appreciate you, bro.
Hey man, love you always, man.
Love you too, man. I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Guys, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next episode. Stay square.